Welcome back, everyone. It's Prelim Final week on the Rem Gordo Show for 2024. How are you, Gordo?
Yeah, good, Remy. It's awesome to be back again. We're back here for week 3 of 2024. It's going to be such a great show.
100% Gordo. Alright, we'll get into today's agenda. What's on the agenda today, Gordo?
So we're going to go through one thing that we love to see from the semi-final week each, and then we'll jump into our big calls for the upcoming week and the rest of the final series, and then we'll go through a recap of the semi-finals before we preview the prelims, and then we'll just quickly knock over our tips for the rest of the season.
Awesome, Gordo. I'm looking forward to it. So we'll start off with the things we love to see, and mine was Joe Danaher clutching up in the semi-final on Saturday night against the Giants. What an amazing last 5 minutes of that game. For him to slot one from the boundary, and then the other one against Sam Taylor in a contested mark where he has only been beaten a couple of times this year, deep in the semi-final. That was the highlight of the weekend for me.
Yeah, well, mine came from the other game. Port with 3 defenders out, missing 3 absolute pillars in their defence. I just thought it was such a great effort from Ken and the coaching team to motivate the group of players and then to get the job done against a team who actually had more experience than them. Yeah, great effort from Port. Really, really love to see that. And now they take on Sydney in this week's prelim.
Yeah, I love to see that as well. Alright, we'll move on. So our big call from the week, I'll start with mine. The big call from my week was that was the best semi-final week I've ever seen since the start of the century. That was just insanely entertaining. I could not remember 2 games that were so pressure intensity was through the roof. I have not remembered some semi-finals like that for a long time.
Yeah, well, people have been crying out for us to make some really big calls. I just thought, what a great opportunity to throw in here that we have witnessed already the best games of the year so far. In the next 3 games, we're not going to see a better game than what we saw during the semi-finals or during the rest of the season.
Yeah, very good call there, Gordo. I thought it was just a very entertaining semi-final week. So we'll move on now. So we'll get into the recap of the semi-finals. So we'll start on Friday night, Port Adelaide versus Hawthorn. We saw Port Adelaide win by 3 points in an entertaining game at the Adelaide Oval. It was very different to previous weeks where Port Adelaide had a really bad game against Geelong in week 1, and then for Hawthorn to fight but not get over the line is very reminiscent of some of their season, to be honest. They had a couple of periods during the year where they could have got over the line but didn't, and unfortunately it's come back to bite them in a semi-final. Very consistent, but very reminiscent of a Giants game in Canberra earlier in the year. I think just the inexperience unfortunately got them in this moment, but it was a very entertaining game to watch, and I was very impressed with both teams. Just like to mention my tip from last round. I nearly got it perfectly, Gordo. I tipped Port by 2, and to win by 3, that was very lucky for myself to tip that.
Yeah, we saw lots of people tipping Hawthorn to actually get the job done in this one.
Yeah.
I thought, Port, such an amazing effort, like I mentioned before, to get it done in a huge moment. They brought the pressure all night right from the first bounce. Against Geelong, they faded after the first quarter, but maintained it all the way through. I just thought they kicked clutch goals to win that game.
Yeah, and I just want to mention the tackling pressure right from the start was on. You could see Kenny got his boys up, and the ability to stick those tackles, like not last week against the Geelong game, was evident. And you could see the midfield just wanted to power through that Hawthorn midfield. The likes of Butters and Horne-Francis and Rosie, I thought put the heat on him during the week, didn't I? And he managed to clutch up. I thought he was really good for his team.
Yeah, we wanted Horne-Francis to start on the field. You saw Butters with the sore ribs possibly start off. Yeah. That just avoided any contact right from the first bounce. I thought that throwing Horne-Francis right in the guts from the get-go was the correct call by Kenny.
Just a shout out also to Jace Burgoyne and Willie Rioli. I thought they were 2 massive players in this game. I thought both of them were number 1 and number 2 on the ground. I thought their intensity and their want to bring the footy to their Port teammates, it was very evident throughout the game, and that intensity was for the majority of the game there. They had a little bit of a lapse in the second and third, but the ability of them to not only fight through the defence of Hawthorn but to attack from the front was crucial.
Yeah, just some outstanding footy from Port Adelaide and Hawthorn. And the Hawks, they'll be disappointed with their performance, but watch them. They'll come back next year, and I'm sure in next year's episodes we'll be speaking about Hawthorn.
Yeah, 100% Gordo. I thought, on just touching on Hawthorn especially, it was pretty unfair for Sicily to hit the post and Dylan Moore in the last few minutes of the game. It could have easily gone the other way. It was so close, neck and neck. But I thought Hawthorn's midfield, especially Newcombe, they stood tall for majority of the night, but just weren't good enough in the clutch moments in that first quarter especially. Port could have easily been 30, 40 points up. They managed to claw it back, but I thought it was a very good effort still from Hawthorn to get that close in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll move on to our next game. On Saturday night, we had Brisbane versus the Giants at NG Stadium.
Oh, wow, what a game.
Unbelievable. I actually fell asleep in the first half. I was that tired from my Saturday watching the local footy. Woke back up at halftime, came back, and sure enough, Brisbane mounted an amazing comeback. To come back from 44 points down, 9 minutes to go in the third quarter.
The second biggest
unbelievable.
Second biggest comeback ever in finals history.
Yeah, tell me about the influential players in that game, Remy.
Oh, I just want to start with a name called Will Ashcroft. What an unbelievable second half he had. That intensity he brought when Lachie Neale wasn't at his best, he just stood and powered through GWS Giants. He was the guy that sparked it for me. That ability to get the contested possessions and the ability to feed it to his teammates on the wings or into the forward line. I thought it was the most dominant display I've ever seen.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Him and McCluggage. Him and McCluggage, what a pairing those two are. Get them together. If Neil's having an off day, they are 100% good enough to win Brisbane games of footy. Our man Cam Rayner did nothing the whole game.
I was very surprised. I thought he would have had more impact, but he didn't. It was the likes of Joe Danaher instead clutching up. As I said, what an amazing game from Joe. And what I'd like to mention also is a shout out to Calamar Chi on Lachie Whitfield. What a special game he had. I think it was underrated. His ability to not only keep Whitfield to 18 touches, but the ability to get the contested possessions and outclass him was really beneficial, I thought.
Yeah, now I know we've lauded the Brisbane Lions here, but their first half was inexcusable.
Yeah.
You can't be giving away a 44-point lead in a final and expect to win it. Trust me, if they do that against the Cats this week, it will not be happening. No,
very good call, Gordo. I thought Jesse Hogan tore them apart in that first half in particular, third quarter. It was really interesting by Brisbane to stick with Jack Payne on Jesse Hogan, considering how dominant he was. But he backed him in that last quarter, and it paid dividends. But we'll get to the key moment, and I thought it was that Brent Daniels' advantage in that last quarter. It could have been a whole different story, Gordo, couldn't it?
Yeah, well, what are your thoughts on that? So, obviously, big atmosphere being in a final. He might not have known the decision yet.
Yeah, he might. Yeah, that noise of the crowd could have impacted, and giving away 2 50-metre penalties during the match. Unfortunately, he's had a really bad night, Brent Daniels, but his ability to fight through that was evident, but not knowing and the crowd could have impacted things a lot. So also maybe the umpires, it's giving that leeway, and they didn't in the end, but that's what happens in finals. It's pressure.
Absolutely, that's right, and they'll learn a lot from this match. And again, like Hawthorn, they'll be back strong next year. You can only imagine.
It must be very tough GWS this week, but that's what finals are about. They're tough, and you've got to live to the next. You've just got to see the future. That's all you can do.
Yeah, that's it. All right, so we'll jump into our wrap up of the prelim final week, our preview. You've got Friday night, Remy.
Yeah, Sydney versus Port Adelaide at the SCG. What a cracking game this looks like. So We see Sydney's had that one game in just inside 27 to 28 days, I believe. Yeah, so only one game in that period. Is it going to cost them the start? Could they start off slow, or do they come home strong and sail over Port Adelaide? Or is it just a smashing? We'll have to wait and see. But I think Sydney's primed for this. They've got the home prelim, so that means they've got the crowd on their side. They want things to go their way, and I think they'll be very up for the fight here.
Yeah, just on that quickly, I'm not 100% buying into the one game in 27 or 28 days, like the Cats and the Swans face this week. I think that if you can avoid having to have a match in the semi-final week, you get a week off to rest, or even do a bit more fitness work and then taper into the game nicely. I think you just go in with much better preparation than the other team. I understand momentum's a big thing in football, but I really believe that freshness, when it comes to athletic performance, is a huge benefiting factor for the teams that do have that week off.
Very good, Gordo. I like that. The strength and conditioning, it's that sports science team on the side that propel them to do their best when it comes to game day. I really like that argument. But let's look at Port Adelaide. Are they going to be too banged up for this game? They put about 100% effort into this semi. Do you think they've just got the momentum to power through Sydney with that history they've got? Or is it just going to be too much?
Well, I think I read during the week, courtesy of Fox Footy, that the two teams really do match up quite well in Port Adelaide's favour. So I think that's where they really get them, is the difference in the matchups in the two teams. So I believe as long as Port bring that intensity and their forwards can mark the footy and put through the goals, I think Port are a real chance in this game.
Yeah, I agree. I just think that midfield battle is going to be crucial. Horn Francis versus Warner, for example, and Rosie versus Heaney. Those types of matchups are going to be so defiant on what's going to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, or I mean, recency bias makes us kind of forget the success of Sydney.
So what is that recency bias with the history, Gordo?
Obviously, so we've witnessed Port Adelaide come and beat the Hawks at Adelaide Oval in a huge game for them. But 2 weeks ago, we forget about how good Sydney really were against the Giants. The likes of Heaney and Warner in that last quarter, Rowbottom's tackling pressure.
Yeah,
I just think Sydney really do mount a strong case to be contenders in this match.
Yeah, so the flip side to that is, though, Port Adelaide have beaten them by every time since 2016. So there's a bit to throw up here. So with that 112-point famous win earlier this year, the momentum could slide Port Adelaide's way. But just on, as we've said, the last two matches, it's going to be neck and neck, I feel. And whoever brings that pressure from the first bounce is probably the winner.
Yeah, that's it. I agree. Saturday at 5:15, we've got Geelong hosting the Brisbane Lions
at the
MCG. Absolute amazing game, this one. We see a replay of 2 years ago where Geelong managed to get over the top of Brisbane by approximately 80 points.
Yeah, we were both there that day. What a game it was. Geelong's pressure and their ability to just power through the Brisbane Lions was just simply outstanding that day. So can they repeat it? It's the big question. So it'll be that midfield battle again, but also that back line is going to be under pressure from both sides, isn't it?
That's it, yeah, I agree. I've just got highlighted here the previous two meetings, both in July 2023 and earlier this year in the rain, were low-scoring, scrappy matches. I'm just wondering whether we're going to see the same again, or if we're going to see those forward lines fire and get a score around sort of 110 points from both teams, whether it will be high scoring or low scoring. Yeah. I'm leaning more of the side of a low scoring scrap, but we'll wait and see, I guess. Yeah,
very good call there, Gordo. So I think key matchups for this game, it's probably in the defence for me. Who's Callum Archie going to get? That's going to be interesting in that forward line. Could it be Brian Myers? Could it be someone like a Sean Manor? So those types of influences. And I think in that midfield, as I said, Lachie Neale v Dangerfield, it's that Dunkley versus Tanner Broome for example. So these types, and can Lawson Humphreys back up his amazing efforts? So it's really intriguing in that midfield. What's your key players, Gordo, for this game?
Yeah, so I've got highlighted here the battle of the smalls in the forward line. Yeah. I'm really looking to see how Geelong smalls, you've got Stengel, Close and Sean Manor versus the likes of Lohman. I know Rayner's not quite small, but he's a big impact player.
Yeah.
And then Charlie Cameron as well. On that, Charlie Cameron has not kicked more than 3 goals since round 10 when he kicked 5 against Richmond. He kicked 3 against Essendon in round 24, but that's at home versus the Bombers, who were struggling at that time after already being eliminated from the finals. I'm putting the pressure on him this week to step up and kick at least 3 or 4 goals. If he fails to do so, I think that Brisbane are missing out on a chance here of winning the game.
Yeah, good call there, Gordo. Well, I'm going to put the heat on this week, again in the Geelong forward line. I think it's a very big call. Do you go Neil or Hawkins? You have to kick a winning score, and what is going to be best in the most crucial game of the year for each club. So it's going to be interesting at match selection, but I think Geelong's forward line, it's going to be those small forwards again that are going to play a crucial role, but can the tall forwards stand up? Is it going to be too much, or is it going to be a very similar game to 2022 prelim where they just fire from the first bounce and just knock them over just like that? It's going to be very interesting. So for me, Max Holmes, I think Brisbane need to tag him. It's really crucial in this game. I think his breakaway speed through the midfield and the ability to get those 1-2 hand passes or kick it inside 50 was really influential against Port. He's going to do the same if he doesn't get tagged, I think. So that's one to keep an eye on as well with the contrasting styles, as you said. Brisbane need to do some work into Holmes.
Yeah, that's it. What an amazing 2 matchups we've got.
Yeah.
2 really great preliminary finals. I think you've got your best 4 coaches in the AFL coaching these games. It'll be really interesting to see.
A lot of experience.
Absolutely, a lot of experience. It's going to be such a great weekend of footy. We hope you all enjoy.
Yeah, 100%. Alright, so Gordo, we'll go to the tips. So we'll go back to the Friday night match. Sydney, Port Adelaide at the SCG. I want a margin as well.
I'm tipping in this match. I'm going to go with Sydney. I've been on them since the start of the final series. Best team all year. 20 points, Sydney. Very
good, Gordo. Well, I'm going Sydney as well. I think by 38 points. I think Port's going to be banged up after this semi-final, and I think Sydney's class will get them through to another grand final.
Yeah, giving Port absolutely no chance in this one.
Yeah, I think it could go either way, but I just think that Hawthorn game just banged up, I think, for me, and it could go the other way. You never know, but that's just my prediction. I think Sydney's just going to be way too strong.
What are your thoughts on Saturday night?
So Saturday night, I think it's going to be a very close game, this one. I've been neck and neck all week on this one. Who do I go? Brisbane with the momentum or Geelong with the home ground advantage? And I just look back at recent history. MCG is not a strong point for Brisbane Lions, and I think it's going to be just a tad too much this year to get into the grand final. So for me, Geelong by 22 points. So yeah, just a pretty entertaining game, but I think Geelong's just going to get over the line.
It's hard not to be biased in this one, being a Geelong supporter with your team in a prelim final, but I'm leaning towards Geelong as well. I'm going to tip them by 18 points.
Very good, Gordo. Alright, so we'll move on to the Premiership favourite now, tip. I'm going to have to change mine now as Giants just got knocked out in a heartbreaking semi-final. So my grand final tip, I'm moving towards the Cats. I think the home ground advantage is going to be way too strong this year, and I think it's going to power them to another flag at this stage. It could change next week, but that's my Premiership favourite.
I'm going to go... I've been on Sydney this entire time. I know Geelong are looking the goods. It's so hard for me to tip against them. We'll get to that if they make it through this match against the Lions. But I'm going to say Sydney this week. Who knows? That might change after what we see during the preliminary finals.
Very good, Gordo. So enjoy your prelim final week, everyone. It's a really entertaining week, and I hope everyone enjoys the prelims. Thanks, Gordo.
Yeah, thanks again for joining us, everyone. We really hope that you're enjoying these episodes of Rem and Gordo for 2024.